There are over 45,000 Christian denominations in the world today. 45,000! And many of them read the exact same Bible, quote the exact same verses, and walk away with completely opposite conclusions. If this book is God's blueprint for humanity, why does it so often look like a Rorschach test? Are we just fooling ourselves? Or is there a flaw in how we are reading it? There is a built-in decryption key in the text itself. A single rule of logic that, when applied, collapses the vast majority of theological disagreements. Welcome to Doctrine Distilled. Let's distill the truth. Most of us have been taught one of two things about confusing Bible passages. Either we are told, it's a mystery, just have faith. Or we are told, you just need a smarter pastor or a better commentary to figure it out. But here is the problem with both of those answers. If the text is inherently chaotic, then God is a poor communicator. And if truth depends entirely on which scholar you trust, then faith is just an intellectual lottery ticket. We need a better, more reliable way to read this book. To fix this, we need a logic framework. As someone who studies logic and systems, I can tell you this. If you feed a perfect data set into a broken algorithm, you get garbage output. The Bible is not a box of random fortune cookies. It is a unified library, written over 1,500 years, yet maintaining a single, cohesive narrative. Imagine receiving an encrypted message from a brilliant cryptographer. You do not guess the key by looking at modern pop culture, your personal feelings, or a politician's agenda. You look for patterns within the message itself. This is the framework, the principle of internal consistency. Simply put, Scripture interprets Scripture. A verse cannot mean to you what it could never have meant to its original author. And no obscure, isolated passage can override a clear, repeated theme. Let's look at the evidence for this framework, scene by scene. First, the historical precedent. In Acts 17, the Apostle Paul arrives in Berea, preaching a radical new message about Jesus. The people there do not just blindly accept his charisma or his authority. Acts 17:11 says they were more noble because they examined the scriptures every day to see if what Paul said was true. The biblical standard is not blind acceptance. It is active, daily verification against the existing text. Second, the Bible's own instruction manual. Isaiah 28:10 gives us the methodology. For it is precept upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line. Here a little, there a little. The Bible builds its own dictionary. For example, what is Babylon in the book of Revelation? You do not guess by looking at modern geopolitics or current events. You go back to Daniel, Jeremiah, and Isaiah to see how the Bible itself defines its own symbols. When you let the Bible define its own terms, the confusion evaporates. Third, the danger of what scholars call proof texting, pulling a verse out of its framework to support a preconceived idea. Take the thief on the cross. Many read Luke 23:43 as, "Today you will be with me in paradise," and use it to prove the soul immediately goes to heaven at death. But remember our framework. No obscure passage can override a clear, repeated theme. We know from episode 1 that the Bible consistently defines death as a sleep. And we know that 3 days after the crucifixion, Jesus tells Mary, "I have not yet ascended to the Father." When you let the Bible interpret the Bible, the contradiction vanishes. The original Greek had no punctuation. A simple, logical shift of the comma changes the meaning entirely. Truly, I tell you today, you will be with me in paradise. The promise was made today. The fulfillment is in the future. Now, let's be honest. This method requires work. It is much easier to just read a verse, feel good about it, and move on. And yes, there are genuinely difficult passages in the Bible. Ancient genealogies, complex apocalyptic symbolism, and cultural contexts that feel entirely alien to our modern world. But complexity is not the same as contradiction. A complex mathematical proof is not a broken equation. It just requires patience, context, and the right tools. The honest seeker who applies consistent rules will always find more clarity than the skeptic who cherry-picks outliers to justify their doubt. So, why does this actually matter? Why fight over how we interpret a text? Because if we get this wrong, we turn the Bible into a vending machine. We put in our preconceived ideas, our cultural biases, or our personal desires, and it conveniently dispenses a verse to validate them. We end up worshiping our own reflections. But if we let the Bible speak on its own terms, it becomes a mirror that actually transforms us. It humbles us. It unites us. It means your salvation does not depend on your ability to twist a Greek word, but on your willingness to submit to a beautifully coherent, divine blueprint. We disagree on theology not because the Bible is broken, but because we often bring broken lenses to a perfect text. If you are ready to stop guessing and start letting the text speak for itself, drop the words "let the text speak" in the comments below. But knowing the rule is one thing. Applying it is another. Next time, we are going to take this exact decryption key and apply it to one of the most heated historical debates. How do we actually know which books belong in the Bible? What about the Catholic Deuterocanon or the unique texts of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church? Make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss it, because deep theology deserves simple truth. And that is exactly what we are here to distill. Together. See you in the next video.